Video 87, Hierarchical Leadership Area 9, MCHES Sub-Competencies 5.4.1, 5.4.2, 5.4.3. Review the learning objectives for this video. Welcome to this advanced module on hierarchical leadership, and this is a topic I find really fascinating because it gets to the heart of what it means to be an effective leader in health education. As an MCHES, you will frequently operate within complex organizational structures where your ability to lead change, manage diverse teams, and navigate institutional dynamics determines whether health education programs succeed or fail. The stage theory of organizational change is a foundational framework you must understand for the advanced examination. This theory describes the sequential process through which organizations adopt and sustain innovations. It consists of 4 stages, and each stage requires different leadership strategies. Let me walk you through them. Stage 1 is awareness. In this stage, the organization first recognizes that a problem exists or that an opportunity for improvement has been identified. For health education, this might mean that a hospital system reviews its community health needs assessment data and recognizes that employee wellness programs are inadequate, or that a school district becomes aware of rising rates of adolescent mental health crises. The leadership strategy during the awareness stage is information dissemination. You are building the case for change by presenting data, sharing research findings, and communicating the gap between current performance and desired outcomes. You are not yet proposing specific solutions. You are establishing that the status quo is insufficient. Stage 2 is adoption. In this stage, organizational leadership makes a formal decision to implement the proposed change. This is where institutional authority becomes critical. No matter how strong the evidence, organizational change does not proceed without a formal commitment from decision makers. Your leadership role during adoption is to present a clear, evidence-based proposal that addresses decision makers' concerns about cost, feasibility, and alignment with organizational mission. You need to secure buy-in from key stakeholders and navigate organizational politics. Stage 3 is implementation. This is where the change is actually put into practice, and it is often the most challenging stage because it requires translating a policy decision into operational reality across multiple departments, roles, and workflows. Your leadership role during implementation is hands-on coordination. You must provide training, troubleshoot barriers, maintain communication channels, and monitor progress. Resistance to change typically peaks during implementation because this is when people must actually change their behavior and routines. Stage 4 is institutionalization, which is sometimes called the maintenance or sustainability stage. This is where the change becomes embedded in the organization's standard operating procedures, policies, and culture. The innovation is no longer seen as new or special. It is simply how things are done. Your leadership role during institutionalization is to ensure that the change is reflected in official policies, job descriptions, training manuals, and performance evaluation criteria. Without institutionalization, even successful changes erode over time as staff turn over and organizational priorities shift. On the MCHES exam, questions about the stage theory typically present a scenario describing where an organization is in the change process and ask you to identify the appropriate next step or leadership strategy. The key is matching your response to the correct stage. You are going to find this framework incredibly useful. Now let us dig into a distinction that comes up very frequently on the MCHES exam, and it is one you are really going to want to have down cold. That is the difference between transactional and transformational leadership. Transactional leadership operates on a system of exchanges. The leader provides clear expectations, establishes procedures, monitors performance, and delivers rewards or consequences based on whether those expectations are met. Think of transactional leadership as management by agreement. Staff members know exactly what is expected, and they receive recognition, compensation, or other rewards when they deliver. Transactional leadership is effective in stable environments where established programs need to be maintained consistently. For example, if a community health center has a well-functioning diabetes education program with trained staff, proven curricula, and established referral pathways, transactional leadership keeps that program running smoothly. The manager sets performance targets, monitors quality indicators, and provides feedback based on those targets. Transformational leadership operates on a fundamentally different principle. Rather than exchanging rewards for performance, the transformational leader inspires followers to transcend their own self-interest for the good of the organization and its mission. Transformational leaders articulate a compelling vision, model the values they espouse, stimulate creative thinking, and provide individualized attention to each team member's professional development. Now, here is something the exam loves to test, so pay close attention. Transformational leadership has four components. The first is idealized influence, which means the leader serves as a role model who earns trust and respect through their own behavior and commitment. The second is inspirational motivation, which means the leader communicates a clear and compelling vision of the future that energizes the team. The third is intellectual stimulation, which means the leader encourages innovation, questions assumptions, and welcomes new ideas even when they challenge the status quo. The fourth is individualized consideration, which means the leader pays attention to each team member's unique needs, strengths, and development goals. Transformational leadership is most effective during periods of change, when building new programs, when leading diverse interdisciplinary teams, and when organizational culture itself needs to shift. For example, if a university health center needs to completely redesign its approach to student mental health from a reactive treatment model to a proactive prevention and education model, that transformation requires a leader who can articulate a new vision, challenge existing assumptions, and inspire diverse stakeholders to embrace a fundamentally different approach. On the MCHES exam, here's the decision rule to remember. If the scenario describes a stable program that needs consistent management, the correct answer likely involves transactional leadership. If the scenario describes a change initiative, innovation, or culture shift, the correct answer likely involves transformational leadership. This distinction is going to serve you well on exam day. Now let us talk about something that is becoming increasingly important in our field, and that is leading diverse interdisciplinary teams. As a Master Certified Health Education Specialist, you will frequently lead or participate in teams that include professionals from medicine, nursing, social work, public health, behavioral health, community organizing, and other fields. Leading these teams effectively is both a science and an art, and I want to make sure you feel confident with the key principles the MCHES exam tests. The research on diverse teams is clear. Teams with diversity in professional backgrounds, life experiences, cultural perspectives, and demographic characteristics produce better decisions and more innovative solutions than homogeneous teams. However, and this is a really important point, this benefit is not automatic. Diverse teams only outperform homogeneous teams when they are skillfully led. Without effective leadership, diversity can lead to miscommunication, conflict, and fragmentation. The first principle for leading diverse teams is cultural humility. Note that this is different from cultural competence, although both are important. Cultural competence refers to acquiring knowledge about different cultures and developing skills for cross-cultural interaction. Cultural humility goes deeper. It is an ongoing process of self-reflection and self-critique in which you examine your own assumptions, biases, and power dynamics. A culturally humble leader does not assume they fully understand a team member's perspective based on demographic characteristics. Instead, they approach each interaction with openness and a willingness to learn. The second principle is role clarity. On an interdisciplinary team, each discipline brings a unique perspective and skill set. Problems arise when team members do not understand what each discipline contributes or when professional boundaries overlap without clear communication. As the health educator on the team, you bring expertise in behavior change theory, community assessment, program planning and evaluation, health literacy, and cultural adaptation of interventions. Other team members bring different expertise. Your role as a leader is to ensure that every discipline's contribution is valued and that the team has clear agreements about who does what. The third principle involves understanding and managing conflict. Research distinguishes between two types of team conflict. Task conflict involves disagreements about ideas, approaches, and decisions. When managed constructively, task conflict actually improves team decision making because it forces the team to consider multiple perspectives and challenge assumptions. Relationship conflict involves interpersonal tension, personality clashes, and emotional friction. Relationship conflict is almost always harmful to team performance and must be addressed quickly. Your job as a leader is to encourage task conflict while minimizing relationship conflict. This means creating meeting structures where all perspectives are solicited, establishing norms for respectful disagreement, and addressing personal friction privately before it escalates. The fourth principle is inclusive decision making. On many teams, the people who speak the most or hold the highest organizational rank dominate decisions. This is particularly problematic on diverse teams because it can silence the perspectives that diversity is supposed to bring. Effective leaders use structured techniques such as round-robin input, anonymous idea submission, nominal group technique, and explicit invitations for quieter team members to share their views. On the MCHES exam, questions about diverse teams typically present a scenario where a team is experiencing conflict or underperformance and ask you to identify the leadership action that would best address the situation. Look for answers that emphasize inclusive processes, role clarification, and constructive conflict management rather than authoritative top-down directives. You are building a really well-rounded leadership skill set here, and it is going to show on exam day. Read the scenario stem aloud. Give students 30 seconds to consider options before advancing. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is B. This response directly addresses the inclusive decision-making principle by restructuring the process to ensure all voices are heard. Round-robin input and small group discussions are evidence-based facilitation techniques that reduce dominance by high-status members and create space for quieter participants. Option A ignores the fundamental principle that diverse coalitions require all perspectives to be represented, and expertise does not reside solely in institutional partners. Option C might reduce dominance temporarily, but does not address the structural problem and could create resentment. Option D separates the coalition along institutional and community lines, which undermines the entire purpose of having diverse representation and could reinforce existing power imbalances. Summarize the key takeaways.